Hello and welcome to the More the Merrier. I'm Donna G. And joining me today in studio is blogger Heidy Mo from highmusings.blogspot.ca. And joining me by telephone is Kirk Cooper, the founder of Film Market Access. And guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for the welcome, Donna.
And Heidy, good to have you both back. And on today's show, we'll be talking about the Toronto International Film Festival. I've been away for the past couple of weeks, so it's nice to be back on air, be live in studio. And I know TIFF has ended, but we always share our favorites with you, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So I tweeted about half an hour ago that I was still having problems with my top 5. And it's like I literally came to this station and I looked at my list again, and I saw around 18 films, and I looked at my list again, and I had to narrow it down. The top 3 were fine. It was a 4th and 5th spot that I had problems with. Did any of you have problems narrowing it down to 5? Kirk, let's start with you.
Well, after seeing about 21 of the films that were selected at the festival in about 5 days, yes, I do have a hard time narrowing it down. There were only about a couple films that I just think, sorry to say this, but I felt I wasted 2 hours of my life watching that film, 2 films. So it was really tough to narrow it down. Should I say what my top 5 is now? Should we wait a little longer?
Let's discuss them individually.
Okay.
Heidy, did you have any problems narrowing down your list?
I did have a bit of a hard time. I saw a lot less films this year than I tend to do, but I think I always have a difficult time narrowing it down to 5 because, for different reasons. But I managed. I think I managed before you.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And you posted them sooner than I did, too.
Right.
It was hard for me to narrow down to 5. I should mention also that the 18 that I saw were features. And I also managed to see most of the films in all 6 Shortcuts Canada programs as well. Yeah. I didn't get a chance to see a lot of Canadian features this time around, and that's simply because while I encourage people to go and support the directors that are we're the host city, so to speak, and I encourage people to go out and support by buying tickets to the festival and, letting the world see that we support their films. Because I'm media, I have access to these films later on when they come out. So that's my reasoning for not going to actually see some of these Canadian films, because my time was very limited and I knew I would have an opportunity later to see these films. Why I encourage people to go is because the people who are buying film or checking out directors for other projects need to see that there is a Canadian audience for these films as well. So my Canadian picks will be coming a bit later on. And as Heidy and Kirk know, my region has become the Nordic countries, simply because 2 reasons, actually. I find Nordic films very similar to Canadian films, and also because one of my favorite programmers, Steve Gravestock, actually programs both. So I know we have similar tastes, so I have a pretty good idea that I'm going to have a good time at the films that I see in either the Nordic or the Canadian regions.
Well, Steve may not like what I'm about to say, but it seems like he understands anything that is frigid.
Frigid.
Ouch.
Love you, Steve.
Hey, I love my cold climate films, but not everything that comes out of the Nordic area is about being cold.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
Just like everything that comes out of Canada isn't about being cold.
Sure.
So Kirk, how do you select your films? By programmers, by subject matter? How do you choose? By time?
Yes, thank you. I was going to start by saying that my time is quite limited in terms of what I can do at TIFF in screening films and enjoying just sitting in a dark theater, enjoying great story on screen, because I run a program that consists of, this year, quite a lot of young people and some really senior producers from around the world. So my full attention is on them from the day the festival begins till somewhere just before the industry screenings all ended. So at that point, I'm not able to just walk into a theater with my badge to the industry screening, which is separate from the public. I now have to join the public line, and this year wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I really didn't have such a bad experience watching film with the public, because as we talked about last year, it's a different environment you're in. And I simply try to find films that I miss based on directors. That is number one. And also themes for what I'm interested in. I also try to catch... Well, this year was easy. I try to catch at least a couple Canadian films, but it was so easy this year because there were such good, talented Canadian directors, writers, producers putting out great films. So I had the opportunity to see four Canadian films. I saw Dallas Buyers Club. I saw Prisoners that I know most people are thinking, isn't that like from Warner Brothers or something? But yes, a big studio film. And it was a Canadian director and a different producer, not a Canadian producer on that one. And I saw I don't know how to pronounce this. It's Bruce LaBruce's film.
Oh, Gerontophilia.
Gerontophilia.
Yeah, it's a really strange title, and I think
it's a strange subject.
It is. It's also a very strange subject. It's not for everyone, but actually I went because of the actor in it, the older gentleman the actor that played the older gentleman in the film. And it was, it's a tamer Bruce LaBruce type of subject matter, and he handled it well, but I think he could have been a lot better. It wasn't one of my top films. But that's pretty much how I select what I'm going to go see at the festival.
Yeah, we have a lot of talented Canadian directors showing their product at the festival and doing indie films as well as the more mainstream as well.
Right, and could you just add one more person? I feel bad not mentioning this because he's a friend of mine, Richie Mehta. I saw his film, Siddharth, which when you mentioned indie, it just brought me back to the fact that there's a broad range of talent in Canada, and he did an amazing job on an indie title called Siddharth, and thankfully he has now distribution in Europe for it, so that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Siddharth, Animal Project by Ingrid Vaninger, who is a filmmaker that I follow. I did see the documentary Hi Ho Mr. Hay by Alanis Bomswain, who is a magical director. So Heidi, how do you choose your films?
Oh, wow. I don't really think I have a process as much as you guys do. But it does depend on time as well. Sometimes I do volunteer for the festival or I have commitments such as work. So that also limits my availability. But I tend to go by program, mainly documentaries, some Mavericks, because it's nice to have access to filmmakers or other people.
Can you explain the Mavericks to people who may not be familiar?
Oh, sure. Mavericks is usually an in-conversation type event where it could be producers, directors, actors are basically in discussion with one of the programmers, and they also allow us to ask questions during the event and perhaps see some clips of work that they're working on.
Yeah, Spike Jones is one of the Mavericks for this year, which I really, really wanted to go to, and I missed it.
And it looked like it was packed.
Wow.
I was in line for the film afterwards, and that theater was packed. It sold out.
Well, Heidi, you and I managed to see What Is Film.
Right.
For a Maverick session, and I was really impressed by the level of the questions that were asked, because these people who go there are, definitely interested in film. And What is Film is a fascinating documentary with different answers to the question, because there can't be just one answer to such a broad question as the definition of film. But that's just to give you an idea of what the Maverick sessions are like. So you do documentaries, Mavericks. What else do you look for?
Midnight Madness, of course.
Definitely.
I spent a few late nights at the theater as well. My gosh.
Did you really?
Yes, I went 3 times.
What did you see, Kirk?
Nuts. I went Thursday, Friday.
In a good way, nuts.
No, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of the end of the festival, like the second week.
Well, I saw your list, and I actually was surprised to see those films in your
100.
Why don't you play in hell?
You can play in hell. Why don't you play in hell? Sorry. And I gotta tell you, Colin Geddes, he's a rock star.
He is.
That
definitely
particular program. It's like when he walks on stage, they just adore him. They love him there. So good for him. 25 years. Midnight Madness celebrating 25 years.
Well,
definitely.
Midnight Madness is an experience.
Very much so.
It's a communal experience where everybody knows the type of film that they're about to see. It's very interactive. Where people applaud during the film.
Mm-hmm.
The night that I went, they usually throw around a beach ball for the audience at Ryerson Theater, and there was a Spider-Man.
Right.
Maybe that's the same night you and I were there, because Spider-Man actually made it to the balcony of the Ryerson Theater.
I think they have Spider-Man every night now, because I only went to. I'm not as adventurous as you, Kirk, when it comes to Midnight Madness. Seeing them at midnight, so I made sure that the one that I saw was on the last night, Witching and Bitching, by
Alex de la Iglesia.
Exactly. Yeah, and Carmen. I didn't even know Carmen Mora was in the film. I'm watching the film and going, "What?" It's Carmen Mora, who's like a star of the Almodovar films, was in this film. This freshly finished film, because we were the first audience to screen it because it wasn't ready.
Right.
He was working on some of the flying scenes with Carmen Mora as the witch. And so it wasn't ready. So the Midnight Madness audience at TIFF, we were the first to see it. And if you've never had a chance to hear Alex talk about his films, what a treat, Heidi.
Oh yeah, he's something else. Very, very open.
Very colorful man, talking about the subject, which might be offensive to some. Wouldn't you agree, Heidi?
Oh, yes, I think so. I think I even saw it online after that. Some people took offense to his take on women, but I think he also prefaced it quite nicely before the film, and he did tell us it was sort of the extreme version of his view. But it's also his view of men, too.
Right, exactly. Right. And this film is it's about a jewel heist by some to say they're inept would be putting it
understatement.
Yes. Jewel heist, and one of the men brings along his son because it was his day to be with his son. And while he's robbing the jewelry store, he's telling his son, I'm doing this for you. It's the only way I can get money to take care of you. And so it's the whole sort of divorced dad situation where he wants joint custody, and the only way he's going to get joint custody is to come up, is to have an income. His way of dealing with this is to rob a jewelry store.
Wow.
And so through the comedy, you get there are other men as well complaining about their divorce situation, and then on the flip side, you have a town of witches who are dealing with the descendant of a new goddess, and so the jewel thieves and the witches clash, and wackiness ensues, as they say. Wackiness and romance as well, in a way,
in an interesting way,
in a very, very interesting way. But it's a Midnight Madness film, so you kind of expect extremes in terms of whether it's horror or comedy. And Witching and Bitching was actually an honorable mention.
Yes, that's right.
On
the awards.
On my list, and also in terms of the awards. that were given out.
Definitely.
At the award ceremony on that last day of TIFF. But let's actually get to some favorites. Kirk.
Yes, ma'am. Starting with me.
Yeah, share a favorite.
Well, my favorite was Toronto's favorite.
12 Years a Slave by
12 Years a Slave
Oh,
by
wow.
Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen.
It was. I'm thinking this is the first time in history that a film by a black director and black theme in its nature has been awarded this. I don't know. I can't remember, I should say, and I don't know all the films that have been given that honor. It's a great honor to get, audience choice, the Blackberry audience choice, I should say. And I think this film was just incredible. Clearly, it deserved it. And I'm thinking, well, actually, after watching the film and hearing people around TIFF, there's a lot of talk about the award seasons coming up, and quite possibly there are certain people who will be nominated for this award season. But besides that, this film, after leaving, it just made me felt, the best way to explain it is raw. I felt like I was transported. I went through everything he went through, which is not easy for a director and a production team to put together a film like this to make you actually feel everything you're seeing on screen. Very few films can move me that way. This one did. I always say to a lot of people, it felt as if my parents had roots, and my generation, we have 12 Years a Slave. Because everything about it is stellar, the writing, the acting, directing, the cinematography, oh my gosh, you know how much I love cinematography. I thought it worked so well. The music, everything was top of the line.
And this is about, tell the people what this is about.
Yeah, this is a story about a man that his name, sorry, let me just get that for a second, is, you know what, it's not coming to me. He's played by, and I'm probably going to say this incorrectly, Chiwetel
Ejiofor.
Ejiofor, thank you. And Chiwetel is living in New York, upstate New York, I believe, and he has a job. He's a freed man. He's just like everyone else in the United States. And then he was offered a contract, because he's a musician, to play for a traveling circus. After encouraged to take this contract, he did, and he went close to, I think he was in the city of D.C., so he's close to the South, as close as he can get to the South at the time during slavery. And it was all a sham. It was meant to capture or distract freed black men, or free black people, but they went after men mostly, but women as well, and children, and put them into slavery. So one night he was given too much alcohol and totally led astray through no fault of his own, because he cannot really think and behave and act properly in the way that he should. He was now not aware of what was going on with him until it was a bit too late, and he was already in chain bondage and taken off to I would consider a market to be sold. And once he's sold, he rebelled, obviously, because he's a freed man. He cannot believe he's in this situation. So the movie is a transformation of him understanding and accepting the situation he's in. And I think to some point, every one of us who's watching this movie think to ourselves, that easily could be us. If something like this had happened, how would we react? How would we behave in this situation? It's very stark. It's very in your face. Steve McQueen did not shy about putting everything on screen for you to experience.
Well, he's not a shy director to begin with. The projects that he directs are very bold and in your face in terms of Shameless and Hunger. So I'm glad that he's having continued success here at TIFF. For me, he doesn't make films about subject matters that I'm interested in, which is why his film wasn't on my list. His other films were never on my list, and this one too, because I did the studies in university, so this is a subject matter that I was already familiar with and studied and written papers about. So that was my reason for not putting this film
but
on my
if you
list.
appreciate certain aesthetics and certain creative way of telling a story, you should actually try and see his work to appreciate that.
No, because there's so many films that are out there that I want to explore, and this is a subject matter that I've spent so much time with that it's not that I'm not interested in it. It's just that there are other films that are demanding my attention, and I can't see everything.
Right.
No, of course not. I agree.
So,
unlike yourself, I agree with you because I have not much interest in Nordic films, and I wouldn't save any time for that during the festival unless there's something amazingly, by a director that I should watch. Then, as you said, the interest would then lie there, and then you'd save the time for it.
Yeah. Well, as I said, one of the reasons I like Nordic films is the stories that they tell. I'm interested in those stories and the wide range of stories that come out of that region because they don't have the Hollywood market. And so these filmmakers tend to make the films that they are interested in making. Oftentimes they also write as well as direct. And one of the films that Heidi and I both saw in terms of cinematography, and I know, as you said, Kirk, you like cinematography, is Concrete Night.
Yes.
By Pirjo Hankasalo, who is, I think one of the reasons I liked her film is the fact that she is not only a director, a seasoned director. Her film was in the master's program. She was also a cinematographer and an editor. So her film is tight. And the world that she creates in terms of Helsinki. When I interviewed her and also at the public screening, she mentioned that people from Helsinki will be surprised at how the city looks. Right. Because it's filmed in black and white. So it's a city of shadows and stark light. And you don't really see, it's sort of, and there's an air of fog and dreamlike quality towards how she films. And I find it extraordinary that one of the key scenes that she does in Concrete Night had to be done. She didn't have a master shot. She just filmed it.
Yes,
and she set it up and she filmed it, and her gaffer said, well, don't you need coverage in case things go wrong? And she said, why would you have that thought in your head why would you not just go ahead and do it instead of thinking it might fail? Just do it. If it fails, it fails, but don't go in thinking it's going to fail. It might not work. Exactly. Yeah. I screened the film on my computer, and then I had to see it on a big screen, so I went to the public screening, and Heidi joined me. And Heidi, this ended up on your list. Yeah,
it's my number 2.
And share your reasons.
Well, I went because I know your love of Nordic films, so I figured I wanted to take in something by a director that I didn't really know that much about. And I think I love the film because not only because it's beautiful to look at in black and white, I actually cared for the characters in the film. Mm-hmm. The actors actually were that great.
Yeah, and this is a film it's based on a book, and it's about a 14-year-old boy, his brother, who's going to be incarcerated the following day, and their mother. And this is Concrete Night is the last evening that the boys, the two brothers, will spend together before the incarceration.
Right. So the two brothers alone are really captivating together, but also on their own. And even the peripheral characters as well. The actual cast is not that big, so I think it also draws you in that way into the story. Right. And it's also a place I don't know. I've never been to Helsinki, and I did like the way she did. Yeah. I've seen Helsinki
in films before, but never, ever,
not like this. Right.
Never, ever like this. So she does an amazing job of recreating a sort of like a timeless place, borderless place, just an urban setting.
I think so. It could be almost any
exactly
city.
any big city. So she does a wonderful job of that. And just to show you the more diversity of Nordic films, Kirk, I also saw a very wonderful film called Heart of a Lion by another Finnish director,
which I heard good things about.
Domain Karukowski.
Yeah.
So you go from a film by one Finnish director that's very dreamy and black and white to Heart of a Lion, which is a drama with comedy about the leader of a group of racist skinheads who finds himself falling in love with a Finnish woman who has a biracial child. So it's his journey in terms of accepting who he is, first of all, learning more about himself, the values that he had espoused previously to meeting this woman, and the interaction between the lead actor, Peter Franzen, and the young boy, Yusufa Sidibe, is incredible. Their chemistry together, as the young boy is quite aware that this guy is a skinhead, so he's always, and you've got skinhead, plus you've got a boy whose mother has a boyfriend, so he's always pushing those boundaries, pushing the boundaries, and Peter Franzen, as a skinhead, is in love with the mother, so he's not going to do anything to put the relationship in jeopardy. So it's the journey of this man discovering himself and love. And Peter Franzen is incredible. If you didn't believe the vulnerability in his eyes and the love that he has for the mother, then this story could have easily fallen apart. But it's just a wonderful look at this. It's basically it's a character study, but also relationship between men as well.
Interesting.
So Kirk, just to show you that there is diversity within the Nordic films that I do see. So
I have no question. No, I never doubted you for a second. I know there are diversity. That's the great thing about art. We can look for something special that speaks to us.
Yeah. And it's not that I dismiss other regions.
Right.
But I've come to enjoy films from the Nordic regions and the directors and the products that I shouldn't say product, the film. Pirjo Hankasalo would be like shaking her finger at me for saying product because because she's been in the film business for so long, she's very outspoken. Mm-hmm. She gets financing for her films before she shoots because she doesn't want to be in debt based on a film that she's made. She also doesn't want to be to follow the Hollywood model where you get the money and then you have to compromise who you are as a filmmaker to get things done. And she says Hollywood is trapped and that they have to produce a product that makes money.
Right.
And that's the
so in that sense, you'd be very insulted if you call it a product.
Sorry?
In that sense, you'd be really insulted if she heard you
yes,
calling
exactly.
it a product.
That's why I'm saying let me just stop right there and correct myself.
Check yourself.
Because they're trapped in producing a product because it's based on the financial.
Right.
And I have to say, in dealing with a lot of industry folks, we use that word very loosely, which is really weird because I think it's because of that, the Hollywood trappings and those words that are buzzwords that we hear all the time. So, yeah, I do refer to a film as a product, but most of the time it's because it's not done yet. But when it's finished, I don't call it a product of a film. So you're right.
Yeah,
but it's fall into that trap.
It is definitely an industry term. Just like we refer to actors as talent. The talent.
Right.
That's it's like the talent. So it's very interesting, my conversation with her. And but the masters, I always try to see something in the masters section.
I agree.
I actually wasn't sure about Pirjo's films because I didn't know her career.
Right.
But the fact that she was I love editors.
Yeah, she was also in documentaries.
Yes.
She's worked in documentaries.
She did documentaries. But that's what drew me to that film. Kirk, you saw films in Cannes, and I'm wondering about a film that you saw that I heard quite positive reviews about. It's called Like Father, Like Son.
Yes. Oh, what a beautiful film. I had the opportunity to see it in Cannes, and I wish I had done my top 10 and sent it out to a lot of my friends and colleagues, because this is a film that I really think that everyone should have seen. It turned out when I was watching Stranger by the Lake, which is another film that was in Cannes, but I didn't get a chance to see it, but I saw it here in TIFF, a gentleman was telling somebody behind me about this film. And I turned around and I go, yes, great film. You should try and catch it if you ever get a chance. This film is done by a Japanese auteur. His name is Hirokazu Koreeda, and he took away the jury prize in Cannes for this film. And this is a really, how should I put it? It explores the age-old debate about nature versus nurture. And it is about two sets of parents whose worlds are turned upside down when they find out from a hospital that they may have switched the babies at birth accidentally. Yes. And now it's a question of, this is my child, but it's not really my child, and do I want to know who my child is and know something about my child? So they come together to decide if they should switch the switch them back to their original parents. Just the parents decide in this. Of course, the lawyers are outside every meeting, every discussion, pretty much, but never around the kids. They're very clear not to bring the kids where the lawyers are around, and it's very interesting because they're from two different worlds, these parents. One is very much a business exec who handles things very straightforward, very clear cut, very much diplomacy is handled in these dealings with them, and he's always including the lawyers. And then there's a young family who's like basically from the countryside. They're very comfortable in how they treat and raise their kids in a very communal way, and they play with their kids. The father takes baths with his son, and the other father would never do that. He hardly even plays catch. The kid has an iPad and plays and electronic stuff. So it's two different worlds colliding in this film. But it's very touching because at some point it's not so much about the parents anymore. The director is very smart. He switched it and make it about the kids now deciding if they want these parents without really understanding what the nature of the situation is that they're dealing with.
That's great.
Sounds fascinating. Mm-hmm. We have to take a break, but when we come back, I want to hear from you, Heidi, about a couple of films that you saw. One especially called Cannibal.
Okay.
Ooh, sounds fun.
I know. So keep it locked to 89.5 FM. This is Donna G with guests Heidi Mo and Kirk Cooper. We're discussing the films we saw at the Toronto International Film Festival, and we will be right back.
This just in, the CIUT Fall Membership Drive is fast approaching. From October 21st to the 27th, you can donate to CIUT 89.5 FM. If you donate before October 20th, you can be entered into the early bird draw for a chance to win a Samsung Galaxy Note. For more information, visit www.ciut.fm. CIUT 89.5 FM, the sound of your city.
The evolution continues. CIUT 89.5, Toronto.
And we are discussing the Toronto International Film Festival here on the More the Merrier. I'm Donna G. Joining me by telephone is Kirk Cooper, founder of Film Market Access, and in studio is blogger Heidi Mo. So Heidi, before the break, I mentioned that I wanted to hear from you about Cannibal. So let's hear it.
Sure. So just to set it up for people, the film is set in the city of Granada in Spain, where we meet a tailor named Carlos, and whose big secret is that he is a cannibal. and I mean, if you read the description in the book, in the TIFF Bible, as we call it, that's one of the first things that kind of stands out. And the idea is that he unexpectedly falls in love with a potential
Neil?
victim.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the gist of the film, and it's a film that I think you would also appreciate, both of you, Donna and Kirk, because of the way that the director sets up the story from the very beginning. During the Q&A after the premiere actually really also helped in understanding the film. And he explained how he wanted to start it with a very long take. And it's at a gas station, and you're from afar, and it's dark. All you see is the gas station and the car, and there's a girl outside the car, or a person outside the car having a cigarette. So you don't really know what's going to happen, but it sort of sets up not just the mood, but the pacing of the film, which a lot of people, including myself, found it a little bit too slow from the beginning. So, but it also allows you to get to know this Taylor who has this big secret. And, it's not a film that is gory in its nature. Like, he's a cannibal, he's a killer, and he's doing these things to women only, which I should mention. And, but it's also a way for us to try and figure out why he's doing this. And because it is a Spanish film, there's a lot of religious undertones in the way that the story has been told. So, yeah, and the director did help explain that at the end as well, which for some people it would make sense,
Well, that's one of the advantages of going to film festivals in general.
Right.
Is that usually the director is there, and you can ask these questions. And have them answered directly by the director. I mean, a lot of the times I've heard answers in Q&A, but I can't share them with you on air because that's giving away something
too
about
much, right.
that's giving away too much of the film.
I agree.
But it's nice to have those answers yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I had understood most of it. Sorry, go ahead, Kara.
I was going to say, of course, I told you I went to a few public screenings. However, on Saturday and Sunday, most of the directors are gone.
Right.
So those are repeat screenings, and I don't get to hear them speak. But on Friday, one of the films I was at, the director, of course, was Jason Reitman. And he came out and he spoke, and I'm so thankful that he spoke because I think the movie Labor Day that he directed and helped produce, I think, is just a very difficult film to adapt from a book. And I think it's like 50-50 in the theater, liked it, some didn't. But having
What's
him
it about,
spoke about
Kirk?
Basically Labor Day is set in a small town, and it all happens within 5 days, everything that I'm about to tell you. But it seems as if it's a lifetime story. I know that sounds weird, but in the book, it is a whole life. 40 years went by because a prisoner escapes and meets this woman who's having psychological problems, loneliness, depression, things like that, and she's raising her son. As I see it, she's quite an easy victim if someone needed someone to manipulate or, take control. And she would easily welcome that because I think she wanted something to happen in her life. And Josh Brolin plays this convict that is on the run, and he meets her and her son in a sort of a Walmart-type store and took them back to their home and just says, look, I need some time. Would you help me to lay low here? And he lay low for about 5 days until he was captured. Not giving too much away from the story. Obviously, he would definitely be captured in the end. But what happened in that time period is very much like there's a word for this, or phrase for this, where people sort of have empathy or they start to love their capturer. I forget what that's called.
Stockholm Syndrome.
The Stockholm Syndrome. That is what I feel has happened to these two individuals, the mother and the son. They are missing the next element, which is a father figure in the home, because he automatically, right away, started to help out around the home and fix things and act like the father. And they like that, and they bond with him so much so that they started to creatively come up with ways to hide him or explain to neighbors why he's there, or keep him out of sight. Actually, never explain why he's there, but keeping him out of sight. And if they do find someone who intrude completely, come into the house unexpectedly. Then they explain why he's there, which I thought was very interesting. When he did get captured and sent back to prison, it's now how does that relationship continue on, and how far can it go? Well, that's the interesting thing, and I won't say any more about that.
It sounds fascinating.
So it stars Kate Winslet as well as the mother, and Josh Brolin.
Okay.
It's a very interesting story.
Heidi, can you tell me more about the strange color
Of your body's tears.
The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears. Even in French, it's a long title.
Oh, it is. It's a mouthful.
It's a very nice title.
Yeah. I think that sort of grabbed me first. And it's from the Vanguard program, which it's also become quite popular in the last few years. Colin Geddes has something to do with that, I believe. And Strange Color is basically set up as, I think it's in Brussels, yes. And it's a husband who comes home to find that his wife is missing. And there's a detective that comes in to investigate, but eventually they realize that there's a lot of layers of things that are not known. There's a lot of secrets in the building where the man lives with the wife, and it's not just secrecy, it's lies, and also some interesting sexual things happening in and out of the apartment building, which happens to be quite old, with secret passages. So the film itself, that's the basic premise, is not a particular linear story, because of the nature of the fact that there are a lot of layers within the building. So that helps to sort of keep that theme going. So you frankly don't know what's going to happen. And it's sort of taking... I guess, from the 70s Giallo films, the Italian Giallo films. And that's also the reason why I picked this film, because I don't really know that much about those films myself. And but I wanted to see how they sort of reinterpreted or perhaps created something new in this film. And I went with a couple of friends, and we were all quite fascinated by the visuals, the sound, even though we weren't always sure what was happening on screen. But I think the fact that we didn't always know what was going on made it even more interesting, and we just wanted to keep watching.
Well, it sounds like you're saying that the director handled it, and the writer probably handled it really well in terms of
there's two directors involved. Yeah, it's a duo, and they actually have made another film, which I believe is also received some positive feedback and reviews, but they did really well, and you can tell that they've probably studied the classics from the 70s. I mean, even the soundtrack alone includes the songs from some of the classic films in the 70s. So that is sort of their tip of the hat to those filmmakers and the music. So I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, that's for sure. There's some scenes that are probably just too intense. And the sound alone can also be really intense.
Okay, Heidi, you know my taste. Can I see this film?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
I would see Hannibal, though, Heidi.
Oh, Cannibal? Absolutely. I think you would totally enjoy.
So I can see Cannibal,
you
but
can
not
see Cannibal,
Strange Colors.
but not Strange.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Both of you would probably enjoy Cannibal. If that's the right word.
Can I mention something? Because
sure.
I know we are probably going to run out of time, but
yes.
I should have mentioned I love this film, and it disturbed me a lot. And I saw it in Cannes. It's showed here. It's called La Passé, or The Pass. It's a French film, and I'm sure, Donna, you spoke about this director, Ashgar Vahadi. Do you remember A Separation?
I didn't see it, but I did mention the director. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see A Separation, but I've become a new fan of his work. It's layered, this film. It's really a story of a woman who's really caught between two men. But that's not the true essence of the story. It really is a story about mother-daughter. Because these two men are in her life, but she has to also battle with her daughter to understand her daughter. And one of the men is her ex-husband with the new boyfriend. And the young lady who's quite good at disassociating herself from whoever she chooses to. and that would be the boyfriend. Does not like the boyfriend, prefer to have her father come back into her life, but that's never going to happen, as it's clearly seen. And the father or the ex-husband comes back into I don't even know what to call it. It's like a tornado, a storm that's brewing at the moment in their home in Paris, and he was not expecting that. He was only pretty much coming to sign off on papers. And he became the guy who had to fix or try to fix everything. It's a beautiful film. It's very layered. It's very much about a relationship and relationship building, and how do you let go of certain things in the past that you hold on to when you know you should in terms of moving forward. Because the actress, I believe she was in one of the films you've seen. I think Marianne Cotillard was in the French film that you love when she got the Oscar nomination.
Oh, I'm stumped by the name, but
I think her name is Benicio Bijou. Berenice.
Anyway,
Bijou.
we'll
That's
keep
her
the
name.
film in mind. But you talking about relationships, Kirk, reminds me of one of my favorite films, and one that I thoroughly enjoyed on every level. It's called Le Weekend. Heidy's laughing.
I knew it.
Heidy's laughing because she saw me right after this film, and I had such an appreciation
You were
for
dancing,
this film.
Donna.
Okay, I was dancing. It does play homage to Jean-Luc Godard, who's not one of my favorite French directors, but I do appreciate what he does for film. And this is about a couple who's been married for 30 years, played by Jim Broadbent and
I love Jim
Lindsay
Broadbent.
Duncan. Lindsay Duncan is like a screen and stage actress she's been nominated for a Tony. She's won the Laurence Olivier Award twice in her career, and she's got a Commander of the Order of the British Empire for drama. So these two are seasoned actors who are having this honeymoon in Paris for the weekend. Their conversations take us through their relationship from their swinging days in the 60s to their lives now, and their adult son who is having financial problems. So you get all of that through the conversation. You have the wife, Lindsay Duncan, who is feeling her age and not feeling very sexual. And you have her husband, who is very, very much into the way she looks and wants to have sex. And she's like I forgot the name of the line that I had. But the dialogue especially is very smart and very funny. And I had a wonderful time experiencing this couple's marriage for the hour and a half that I was with them, and the unexpected things that they do, like they dine and dash. They do things you don't expect an older couple to do, but it's true to this couple because they're raised in the 60s, so they're not going to be like the traditional parents of the 50s. So we're going to wrap up. So just list. Not necessarily in any order, your top 5. So I'll start with Heidy, then I'm going to you, Kirk, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
okay.
So take it away, Heidy.
Well, mine are online. So they are The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears, Concrete Night, Cannibal As You Heard, Rhymes for Young Ghouls, which is a Canadian film. It will be at Imaginative, and another Nordic film called Pioneer.
Yes, Pioneer is also on my list. This is from the director who did the original Insomnia film that Robin Williams and Al Pacino later starred in the remake. And Pioneer also starts, because I've been covering Nordic films, Kirk, an actor who I've come to simply adore on screen. He's been in Max Manus. He was in the very harsh 90 Minutes last a couple of years ago by Ava Sorhag, and he plays a very abusive boyfriend in that one. Now he's back as an everyday character who's dealing with the corruption in the 80s of the oil drilling industry, and it's filmed like a thriller and very, very captivating and lovely cinematography. The underwater sequences
they're fascinating.
are incredible. So was that your 5, Heidi?
Yes.
Did I interrupt?
No,
Okay.
that was my 5.
So now you know I like Pioneer, Eric Skoldjärg, The Weekend by Roger Mitchell, A Touch of Sin I didn't mention, but that's also from the Masters program. Very well done film. I believe it's coming out soon. Jia Shankar is the director. Heart of a Lion by Domi Karukowski, and Concrete Night by Pirio Honkasalo. So those are my faves. Top 5 of the films that I saw. Honorable mention to Witching and Bitching. And I've got to sign off, but I'll be back next week. Thank you so much, Heidi, and thank you so much.
Oh, I didn't get to say my 5, but
oh,
that's
sorry, Kirk. No, go ahead. You've got time. Sorry.
Oh, my top 5. 12 Years a Slave.
Pioneer threw me off. Go ahead, Kirk.
12 Years a Slave. I love the film that opened this last weekend, Prisoners. Go and see it. You never guess the ending. And The Path. Omar, which is a very strong film about friendship. You have to see that as well. A Stranger by the Lake. Dallas Buyers Club. And am I forgetting anything else?
That's
5.
That's about
5.
it. Okay.
So,
There's
Kirk,
so many.
after this discussion, I want to see those films listed on your site.
I'm working on my site still. That's why nothing's up. I'm so sorry, but the new site will be up in October.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I'll post your faves on my site.
Please. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for tuning in. I love hearing from you. So hit me up on Twitter at TMTM Show, Facebook /TMTM Radio.